Barber here. We're with BC Games today, and we're taking a look at Gunslinger. What we're going to do is we're going to go over each individual card type. So you have special cards, defense cards, attack cards, and item cards. Each one of these functions differently within the game. We're going to go over each one individually as a group. First, we'll start with special cards. There are only two, Bleeder and Lily-Livered Coward. Special cards are played only when their text is fulfilled. For instance, Lily-Livered Coward is a special card that says specifically negate one defensively played card. So, in order for this to happen, you would have Lily-Livered Coward in your hand. Somebody would play a shoot card, and it doesn't matter who. They could be shooting anybody. And somebody would have to play a defensive card such as Graze. If, in the event that happened, you would be allowed to use your card, Lily-Livered Coward, you would call the player that defended a Lily-Livered Coward, and then that player would lose the defensive card. Those two cards are discarded and immediately ejected as a discard. The shoot card would then follow through and do damage. However, the player that played the defensive card would still be allowed to play more defensive cards. It doesn't stop them from ever playing defensive cards, it just stops one defensive card. The other special card is Bleeder. Bleeder specifically does one additional point of damage if a gunslinger takes damage. So the card reads, play this card after a gunslinger takes damage. That gunslinger takes an additional heart of damage. Very simply played, if somebody plays a shoot card against another player and they do this, they have to remove a heart of damage. If they remove a heart of damage, you out of your hand may play the Bleeder card and it would do an additional point of damage. This is no different than playing an attack card, and a player may then play a defensive card such as Graze to negate 1 point of damage. It's still assigned damage. It's not instantly going to do additional damage. So you play that card after a player does take damage. The defense cards are pretty easy. You have four main defense cards here in the original set. You have the Graze, which is -1 point of damage. You have the Missed Me, which is -2 points of damage. And you have the Duck and Cover, which is I don't want to take any more damage at all for the rest of the round. And then there is the Combat Roll. The Combat Roll is the only combination defense card that we have in the original set. The Combat Roll is a ranged defense, which allows you to roll out of the way for 1 point. So you can negate 1 point of damage. If someone played a shoot card, you could then play a Combat Roll. The Combat Roll allows you to roll out of the way and negate 1 point of damage. And then, on top of that, it allows you to play an additional card called Shoot. You can then play Shoot against any player or gunslinger that's still active in the game, including the player that shot at you originally. So you can shoot back at them, and then they have a chance to respond at the same time. You cannot play a Combat Roll against a brawl attack. It has to be a ranged attack. And that comes into play when you get our expansion called Gambler. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move into our attack cards. The attack cards in the game vary in complexity. Some of them are very, very simple, such as a shoot card, and some of them do a couple of different functions. So first we'll go over the basic shoot card. The basic shoot card says attack a gunslinger with your active ranged weapon. So here we have your starting revolver. The revolver does 1 heart of damage, you can see in the corner. And by playing a shoot card, we see that we do the damage from the revolver. So the revolver's in front of you, and you take the shoot card and you play it in front of the player, and you do however much damage your active ranged weapon does. Now remember that that could be the Peacemaker, which does 2 hearts of damage, or that could be your sawed-off shotgun, which does 2 or 3 hearts of damage. All of them are usable with this shoot card. So that's how you mitigate that damage. Now we'll move on. to the next card, which is Quick Draw. Quick Draw only does 1 heart of damage regardless of the firearm that you're using, but you must have an active ranged weapon, so it can't be turned over, which is either disarmed or trick shotted. When you play the active ranged attack, Quick Draw also allows you to immediately draw a card. So before anything on the field is resolved, you immediately draw a card. When you play Tackle, Tackle is a very interesting card. It can be used in brawling, which a brawl attack doesn't require a firearm. So if you happen to have had your gun trick shotted, you can still immediately attack someone with a brawl attack because it uses your fist. So Tackle is an interesting card because it has both attack and defense within the card. So you deal 1 heart of damage to a gunslinger and negate 1 heart of damage that gunslinger has done this round, or negate all damage done this round to a gunslinger other than yourself. So this is used for a team game. So if you're playing 2v2 or 3v2, or you just want someone to live a little longer, you could actually use a Tackle card. The way that the Tackle card works is that or right there is going to allow you to make a choice. So deal 1 heart of damage to a gunslinger. That's what you do. You're going to deal 1 heart of damage to whoever you throw this attack in front of. Then you need to make a choice. Immediately, you're either going to negate 1 heart of damage to the gunslinger that you tackled, so negate 1 heart of damage that gunslinger has done this round, okay? Or you're going to negate all damage done this round to a gunslinger other than yourself. So you can pick your buddy and say, yeah, we don't want to do damage to that guy. So go ahead and take a read on this card, and it can be very, very useful depending on how you're playing the game. Move on to Double Tap. Double Tap is used in conjunction with either Peacemaker or Revolver. The card reads that you can attack a gunslinger twice, or you can attack 2 separate gunslingers once. This is not usable with a double barrel shotgun. So we went over an FAQ a little earlier today, and we talked about the difference between the sawed-off shotgun and double barrel shotgun, and that was a misprint in the very first Gunslinger run. The very first Gunslinger run, the double barrel shotgun was never used. We actually used sawed-off shotgun, and what you have to do is you have to read this, and we do mean that you cannot use this with any shotgun. So double tap is not allowed to be used with any shotgun, just to be clear. So as you're playing this, you are using your Revolver or your Peacemaker, doing 2 or 4 damage. You can split that damage with 2 shots. So you can do 1 to one player and 1 to another with a Revolver, or 2 to one player and 2 to another player with the Peacemaker, or you can put all 2 or 4, depending on the weapon you're using, you can put 2 or 4 damage on one gunslinger. Disarm and Trick Shot. Now, Disarm and Trick Shot are very involved cards. We will cover Disarm and Trick Shot in another video because they're a little more involved, and I want to do the card play as well. Okay, so please look for that video on Trick Shot and Disarm specifically. But we will do an FAQ on those 2 cards. Item cards are the way that you either do damage to a player at a higher rate, or they're the way that you defend damage from another player. So if we split that up, you're going to have Dynamite sitting there on its own. It's a special card. You're going to have the sawed-off shotgun, the Peacemaker, and the Revolver are all of your primary weapons. You're going to have a good book and a barrel, and then you're going to have this brawl weapon, the knife. They're all kind of in their own sections, their own categories. The barrel literally just adds 2 points of health to you. It sits in front of you until you decide as the player that it takes damage. There are no cards that can just take away this damage. You have to choose to absorb the damage with it. If you don't take it off your barrel and you choose to take that hit with your regular life points, that's on you as a player. The good book is a little bit more of an involved card. It has multiple functions both in this and the expansion Gambler. So right here, we're going to look at the item brawl defense. So this card has to be on the field. As with all other item cards, they must be on the field in order to do their function. They cannot be played from their hand to the table and then do something. They have to already be there. The good book, this item deals 1 additional heart of damage when accompanied by any card with the word punch in the name. That is specifically for the game Gambler. Now, it does not affect Gunslinger if you're playing it individually. Now, you may discard a good book from play to negate all damage from 1 attack. Now, that is effective within Gunslinger. The good book will not negate damage from dynamite or sawed-off shotgun. Now, later editions will say any shotgun, but this edition does say sawed-off shotgun. Now, right here we're going to take a look at the good book will negate damage, or the good book will negate damage from 1 source. So if we have a double tap or a shoot, it may affect those cards a little differently. For instance, a good book will stop a shoot card. Just stop it cold, no damage will come through. It doesn't matter whether or not you're playing it with the Peacemaker or with the revolver, and as it states on the good book, it cannot be used against the shotgun. But double tap, for instance, fires 2 shots simultaneously, and the good book only negates 1 of those shots, so it either negates 1 or 2 damage depending on whether or not you're using the revolver or the Peacemaker. So the second shot from double tap does come through. Good book does not negate the entire card. We'll move on to Knife. Knife is a very special card in Gunslinger. It's more effective when we get into Gambler, but it is very good in Gunslinger. If you can have this card out at the very end of the game, you actually win. Take a look at the text. It says this item deals 1 additional heart of damage when used with a Brawl attack card. Now, a Brawl attack card is the tackle card and right here the disarm card. Both of those cards are brawl attacks, and you add 1 point of damage to either tackle or disarm if you have the knife equipped. It doesn't even have to be your active weapon, just equipped. Okay? So that's that part of it. And then in the event, if the game ends in a tie and you have this weapon equipped, you win. That's the final sentence on Knife, and one of the famous reasons to bring a knife to a gunfight is if everyone runs out of bullets, you can just shank your enemy and you win anyway. Okay? So let's move on. We have Dynamite. Dynamite is the other special card that's an item. Dynamite is literally the last stand, last defense, or the opening salvo to almost every game I ever play. When a player is near death or a player just wants to cause utter chaos, they light a stick of dynamite and throw it in the middle of all the gunslingers. It's very effective. I've seen entire groups of players go down to it, and the final 2 that are standing after the smoke clear get to duke it out. But essentially what happens with this card is it doesn't actually attack any one player, it attacks all players. So if we take a read, it says, this item deals 3 hearts of damage to all gunslingers at the end of the next round. So when it's played, it just goes to the center of the table, the round ends, and at the end of the following round, the last thing that happens is dynamite blows up, and all of the players at the table take additional 3 hearts of damage. You can trick shot this card and turn it over just like a disarm. We're going to cover disarms and trick shots in another video, and we will include the play for Dynamite. As we continue to read it, they can actually pick up that card and play it again, but again, that will be covered in a separate video because it's a very special scenario. Finally, we have our last 3 cards in the game. The revolver is your starting weapon. It does 1 heart of damage. Very simple. The Peacemaker, okay, is used as an upgraded revolver. It does 2 hearts of damage, works in conjunction with a number of cards. And we have the sawed-off shotgun, which is one of the higher level functioning weapons of the game, and it does either 2 or 3 hearts of damage. Okay? And the last thing that you need to be aware of in this game is that there is a special rule in there that says that at any point in time, you may pick any card out of your hand, and you may play that card face down as a shoot card. So if you have nothing but defenses and specials in your hand and you need a card to play, remember that you can play a card face down, and that is a shoot card. You can actually do that off of you can actually do that off of a combat roll or any other function where you need to play a shoot card. You can simply take a card, play it face down. It is now a shoot card doing 1 heart of damage from your active range weapon. Thank you very much. Have a good one.